Hello, Alamo. Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Selby, and I run Mona Cottage Books, which is an online and pop-up bookshop in Haarlem, Netherlands. I am starting this Booktube channel, and I'm going to do the Booktube Newbie questions today. So I will hopefully answer all of your questions in this video shortly. So let's get started. Question number one, why did you start this channel? Well, I'm starting it now. I'm mostly starting it because, like I said, I am a bookseller. I sell English books while living in the Netherlands. And I have also have some experience as working in a library. And so I've kind of decided that this would be a fun way for me to share some of the books that I have, what I'm reading, and get people engaged and interested in books. And because Booktube, everyone seems really nice on there, and I just want to hang out too. So question number two, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? So like I said, I live in Haarlem. I am American, if you can't tell from my accent. I've been living here for about 2 years now, 2.5 years. And I run a pop-up and online English bookshop. So it can be kind of difficult to find lots of English books, particularly kids' books, in English here in the Netherlands. And so I started doing a pop-up shop, and now I do an online one. And so I am a bookseller. So most of the people on Booktube are readers, which is great. Of course, I'm a reader too. But they are readers, and I am a bookseller. And I've also worked at a library. So I worked at the Seattle Public Library for 4 years. So I have a little bit of different knowledge, a little bit different experience that maybe I can share, not just what I'm reading and what I like to read, but maybe a little bit more information about books and maybe how they're made or what age ranges they're for, or some more information that might be useful to people, especially people who are reading in English as a second language, because I have a lot of people that buy my books that are Romanian or Portuguese or Dutch, and they don't necessarily know all the terminology that we use in English to describe books. And so maybe I can help educate on that front. That's kind of my little uniqueness there. Number three, what are you most excited about for this channel? Talking about books, because books are fun. I love books. I love all books. Books are great. And I want to talk about books, and I want to share books, and I want to help people get excited about books. So that's what I'm excited for. Why do you love reading? I love reading because it's not only something that can be relaxing, but it can also be really educational. And not just if you're reading nonfiction, but reading fiction. They've done stories that show, they've done studies that show that reading fiction makes you more empathetic, that you can put yourself into someone else's shoes and you can understand what they're going through, and that you can become a better person just by reading about someone else's stories. You don't have to go out and be oppressed, but you can read about it and you can take that and you can become a more empathetic and thoughtful person. And I really love that. And so I want to share that, and I want to have people be able to learn and, travel through books and not have to go anywhere. If you can't afford it, you can, buy a book and go on a vacation. And also, like I said, and mostly because it's relaxing, because I also like to read really fun, easy things too. Number five, what book or series got you into reading? So I have always been into reading, but I was that weird kid who read nonfiction. I remember as a kid, those eyewitness books, the Egyptian mummy ones, the Roman Empire. I really wanted to be an archaeologist. So I was always reading nonfiction, and I was that weird kid that in middle school, I think I convinced my mom to buy me, a book on the first-hand accounts of the Vietnam War. I was that weird kid. So I think at one point my parents were like, we should get her to read some fiction. And so they started paying me to read fiction books. And so I went to the librarian and I said, okay, well, what do you have that's fiction, but also is as realistic as possible, like history? And I ended up with a book called Blitz Cat from Robert Westall. And it's about this cat that travels, so it gets separated from its humans during the Blitz, so during the bombings of World War II in England. And so then, I think the people have to move and they can't find, anyway, so then this cat, it goes on this journey through England while there's bombs and during World War II, and you get to you get a real sense of what it was like to live during that period. And so then after that, you know, I read almost all of his books because they're all set in World War II, pretty much. And then for a long time, I went back to nonfiction once I was left to my own devices. For a long time, I read a lot of nonfiction. I got a master's degree in archaeology, so I read a lot of like, one of my favorite books for a while was The Archaeology of Disease. Okay, that should really tell you something. That's what I had on my bookshelf for. But then I got a job at the Seattle Public Library, and I was like, oh, please, okay, I'll work up in the stacks. I'll work up in the nonfiction, and I'll be super happy. No, they put me in the kids section. They put me in the fiction, and I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. Until one day I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm starting to buy picture books. These are super fun. Middle grade. So now I am an avid reader of middle grade fiction. I'm a huge proponent of it. I think everyone should read it. It's great. Fiction, nonfiction, everything. I'm willing to try a little bit of anything now. So that gives you a little bit of background about my weird reading habits. Number 6, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I would ask, do you want to go get some tea and talk about books? You know, what are you reading? What do you want to read? Where are you pushing yourself to read something new and interesting and different? Or what is your favorite book? That kind of stuff. Anything to do with books. What's your favorite tea? Because I also love tea. Number 7, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Anything technical. And we'll see if I can edit this. And we'll see if I figure out how to upload it with hashtags and whatnot, and if I can do metadata, whatever that is. I can talk about books all day, but we'll see if I can do the rest. Number 8, when did you start reading? Well, I started reading when I was 5 or 6. So, I mean, I don't know what you mean by like start reading. I guess maybe people take breaks and then they come back to it. And I suppose, yeah, you could say that I kind of came back to it about 10 years ago when I started working at the library and I had access to like a million or more books. And so then I was taking books home all the time. But I've always been a reader, but yeah, like a nonfiction reader mostly. Where do you read? I usually read in bed. I have a young daughter and she's very adventurous and active, and so there's no downtime during the day to sit and read. And also I run a pop-up and online bookshop, so I'm working, don't get to read that much, so then I get to cuddle in bed at the end of the night and do some reading. Well, that's my happy place. 10, what kind of books do you like to read? I think I've already mentioned that I like to read a little bit of everything. I am a big fan of middle grade fantasy. I'm also a big fan of fantasy in general, but also nonfiction. And this year I'm hoping to kind of push myself a little bit and read a bit more outside of my comfort zone. I haven't read a lot of sci-fi. There's other genres. Maybe I'll read a couple memoirs. I don't know. So I'm gonna try to get out there a little bit more. But yeah. So generally, I love the middle grade fiction, which I will talk a lot about on this channel because it's really fun. And the last one is, what does your book collection look like? So my book collection, because it's not really my collection, it's my bookstore. And so most of it is in like book crates, like this one behind me or to the side of me, or bins. It's organized. I don't have a pretty, beautiful aesthetic wall, but I do have these fun old books. So these I got at the used store. They were having a sale of €1 for 1 kilo of books, and a kilo is about 2 pounds of books. So for every 2 pounds of books, you spent €1. So I got these. These are Charles Dickens. These are like really old Charles Dickens books. They're like illustrated and everything. My Dutch is definitely not good enough to read Charles Dickens. I can have a basic conversation, but I cannot read these books, but I just thought they were so beautiful. This is actually Gone with the Wind. It's just like volume 3 of Gone with the Wind. So they're just really pretty. So these are my aesthetic pretty books to go with my vintage sewing machine. It's like over 100 years old, which I do use. I love that one. But the rest of the ones are not necessarily my collection. They're what I sell, and I of course read from that as well. And then I try to get more and get something new and cycle through that. So okay, that's all the questions. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will be putting out more videos that will be of interest to people, educational and fun, and talk about books. So thanks for watching.